2021 was a year of weather extremes, from unbearable heat to record-setting floods. Environment Canada has compiled a list of what affected Canadians most. Joining us now is their senior climatologist at Environment Canada, Dave Phillips. Always great to have you here. Well, at least have you there, but here on the show.
Thank you, Anne-Marie.
This has been an unbelievable year. And, you know, in some cases, a tragic year because of weather that we've seen, weather events. You've been doing this list for 26 years now. This year saw the most amount of intense weather. What stood out to you so far about 2021?
Well, clearly, Anne-Marie, I think I ran out of superlatives talking about this year. I mean, talk about, let's say, the most expensive, the deadliest, and the most destructive. I mean, that would be something spread over a decade and not just in 1 year. It was just tiring to keep track of all of this misery and hardship and misfortune. And really, I think millions of Canadians woke up to the fact that, wow, this is occurring. This is not something that occurs on the other side of the world or on the top of the world. This is in our own backyards, in our own community. And it was just shocking to see the impacts of these, the effects in a country like Canada. And so I think it was just numbing to see the effects. I think what stood out for me, of course, when you think about British Columbia, how unfair was it? I mean, 5 of the first 10 weather events this year were in British Columbia, and 7 of the 10 were there. I mean, talk about how unfair it was. But it wasn't just British Columbia, it was across the country that we saw events that were widespread, intense, and just not going away, just everlasting kind of thing.
Dave, you know, your number one pick was the heat dome. It was deadly.
Yes.
Talk to us about that, why you chose it as number one.
Well, clearly it was the number of deaths. I mean, we have a royal commission set up when 2 people die from the weather in Canada. I mean, there was 600 people, almost 600 in British Columbia, almost 200 in Alberta, died from this heat wave. And this is Canada. We are the second coldest country in the world. And this was this excruciating heat that people talked about around the world. One climatologist said there's never been more records in a heat wave in the world than what we saw in Canada. 1,000 records. We broke an all-time record for the warmest moment in Canadian history, and you know, we had 100 records of between 40 and 50 degrees. I could tell you, Anne-Marie, the majority of Canadians have never felt 40 degrees. So it was just it's an out-of-world experience from that. Yeah,
you put that in such great context that, you know, we're the second coldest country in the world, and this is what we are dealing with. British Columbia's floods, what kind of records did we set there?
Well, you know, it's sort of related, though, that kind of heat and drought and related fires in the spring kind of created the impacts that we saw in the fall. I mean, the rains and the floods were not necessarily fingerprinted to coming out of our tailpipes and smokestacks. But what that earlier weather extremes did, Anne-Marie, was it kind of primed or prepared the land such that it couldn't take these rains. I mean, that is the wettest time of the year. November is the wettest month of the year. But this was just, I mean, we had twice the amount of rain in September, October, and then November was even wetter. It just couldn't stop. It was nonstop, these atmospheric rivers and weather bombs that were attacking the province just day after day. And the infrastructure couldn't take it, and we saw the kind of consequences of this. And it'll be years before they recover fully from the impacts of what has been the wettest fall on record.
Right. Well, that is the bigger part of the story. We're going to end it with number 3, which is Canada being dry coast to coast.
Exactly, Anne-Marie. I mean, I mean, it was billions of dollars of loss for agriculture. I mean, it was just not. Farmers gave up in July in terms of growing things. They thought, well, it couldn't get worse. Well, it did. Then there were hordes of grasshoppers and gophers that ate anything green. And you know, the key thing about this, Anne-Marie, this wasn't just drought out your window. This was like a 2, 3, 4-year beginning to this. I mean, Winnipeg had its back-to-back driest 2 years on record. So it was just too dry, too hot, and for too long. And agriculture really took a beating on this one.
Yeah, the Canadian Drought Monitor classifying 99% of the prairie agricultural landscape as a drought scene. I mean, it was an extreme year.
And that was before harvest. I mean, unbelievable. I mean, it's a head shaker. I'm worn out covering all the weather that we had this year.
Well, rest easy. We're almost at the end of this year, and then we'll pick it back up again in January. Thanks again, Dave.
Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.